must pick 3 or 4 of the areas that is going to help drive you. We talk about an integrated aluminium business. Now, when you think about it, what does that mean? It means that you have to have, as a government, a clear strategy that says, if my intention is to have an integrated aluminium industry, I am going to put all my ducks in the same line to create that integrated aluminium industry. Everybody from the street lamp to the Minister of Foreign Affairs trip overseas has to be focused on that integrated aluminium industry. Energy, petroleum, the roads, the railway, the lights, the electricity, the water, because it's clear. Because if you can get even half of that 50 billion, you can use that to develop education. Then you build the skill set to feed into that integrated. So when we talk about the higher education and the technical skills, if we know we are going to have a $350 billion business, we look at some of our technical institutions. Are we training the people to make sure that they're ready to take up the jobs within this bauxite industry? Are we training the businesses? Do we have a local content law that ensures that along the value chain, because please remember that when I think of oil, I don't focus on the price of the barrel of oil.
You're not looking at how much we can quickly...
No, because the value of a barrel of oil, to me, is not the $100 or $110 you get in the world market. The value of that is, what can I create an industry around that? Look from Senegal all the way down to Angola. How much petroleum is produced in Western Africa? Do we have one petrochemical industry in that place? Singapore hasn't got a drop of oil. They're the largest in Southeast Asia of processing.
They import crude.
Everything. They don't have a drop of oil in their country. But they put the structure, they've invested in infrastructure, and they created the environment and the businesses that flow along with to create a petrochemical industry that most would just are jealous of. So the question is that if you look at our area here, if you look at from Senegal to Angola, we produce close to 5 million barrels a day.
Amazing.
Where does that go?
Amazing.
What could we do with that? How can we add value? Because if you break down the bitumen, what you can get from it, apart from the obvious things, diesel and petroleum for your car, the value of that barrel driven to create businesses along the value chain, including local content law. Let me give another example. It is estimated that the petrochemical industry will spend about $4 billion a year in goods, services, and supplies. That means they're going to take $4 billion out of their pockets every year and buy things, from food to accounting services to cars to renting houses.
Including fertilizer.
Fertilizer.
Chemicals.
Salt. Now, let's get the experts in to run the petrochemical. Dig it out of the ground. Our focus is to create the infrastructure and businesses around it, petrochemical industry, to make sure that in Takrady, the welder, we work with groups of them, because a single welder will go nowhere, to develop, train them to make sure they provide services for that industry. Will you build an industrial park there that is targeted and trained to serve that? Next to it, we have gas. That's why I said Ghana is blessed. Ammonia, methanol, urea, national gas liquid. The value is not the fact that we can pump the gas out. That is, to me, to be honest with you, a waste of assets. What we have to do is take that gas and work it. Use it as a growth pillar to build business linkages. Because imagine if we're able to create one food supplier, just one, that is, it's been trained, it's focused to provide this service to a company, to Tulo, to any of the companies. That company is set up. he or she can provide that same service to 20 other companies. But we use Tulo and the petrochemical to help build them up because we got what we call economic rent. We can't get economic rent from selling something down the road because we know we have to catch up. As you use that money, for instance, I'm sorry, there's somewhere I have a fundamental difficulty with. When you are blessed with some of these things, you cannot put it and spend it. You must spend it in a manner that builds what we call assets. It has to be clear. Remember we talked about a clear plan. And the 5 pillars currently, if I look at Nana Akufo-Addo's speech, he's mentioned. And these are valid pillars. We talk about oil, petrochemical industry, gas, the gas industrial complex, bauxite, integrated aluminium, iron ore in terms of focusing on that, and then cocoa. And I want to talk a little bit about iron or cocoa for a minute, if I can. Because I think what is important is we started by saying, if you look at our 54-year history, how many plans have we had as a country?
As in development plans.
As in development plans. So many. How many of them have we executed? How many have we put our hand on heart and said, you know, when we had this plan, we did 70% of it. Or let me be generous, we did 60% of it. And this is where you look at the examples of what other peoples have done to overcome this, and hence the Economic Development Authority. Or, as I think I was suggested, I thought it was a great idea, the Center for Economic Development Investment, CIDI, as another currency. Because the challenge we have as a developing country, and this is nothing we should be ashamed of, it's a fact, and by the way, even developed countries are using the same model, is that we need to focus our attention, and we need to focus our resources, and we need to remove barriers, bureaucracy and otherwise, to achieving clear goals.
But some have said that the EDA is just going to be a huge behemoth of a bureaucracy.
Actually, its very essence is to be exactly the opposite of that. And let me explain why. Currently in Ghana, we have 5 investment agencies of one form or another.
Yeah.
We have the Ghana Investment Promotion Center,
Yes.
the Minerals Commission,
Yes.
the Free Zones Board, the Export Promotion Council, and the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation. Now, please remember, a promotion agency is not a regulator, point number 1. We don't regulate the market. So the Bank of Ghana is a regulator. The National Communication Authority is a regulator. And their role is critical in any developing and sustained system. But the job of going to look for people, the job of driving policy through all government machinery is focused and targeted. So, let's take an example. The idea is not to create mammoth. The idea actually is to create lean, mean, well-resourced, and targeted intervention. The agencies will be measured on implementation, not on writing great big plans. That can be done by the National Development
Planning
Authority. That's their role.
It's a constitutional body.
That's the point. They come up with our vision. They come up with where they want us to be in a decade's time. Somebody needs to do it. Writing the plans is great, but a piece of paper has never fed anybody. You must execute it. And to execute it, you need an entity that has the power. Let's be honest, has the power from the grassroots to the top, that is led, and clearly the person at the top is driving it to saying, these are our 5 pillars. This is what we are going to do. And all parts of government machinery has to engage. So, Ministry of Education, if the 5 pillars are this, what are we doing to train these young men and women to make sure that when the industries come, they're ready to be employed?
So a manpower policy is pinned off.
Straight to make sure that when these businesses come, we don't have to bring 500 employees from China and elsewhere to come. We can get them here. Because what do we have? We have plenty of good people creating jobs. And these companies will come with expectations. And it's our job to make sure we can meet them. We cannot expect them to come and lower their expectations. No. That way you remain at 122nd and 139. Look specifically. We need to position ourselves, be clear what we want to be known for. So you have a clear manpower policy that trains people. I am a fan, a great fan of technical institutions. You talk to business people today, yes, we want graduates. Don't get me wrong. I'm a graduate myself, and I would never never telling anybody not to focus their dream. But we also need people who can lay 100 blocks a day, clearly, straight, and without issues. We need electricians who have gone through the whole process. We need technicians. We need computer programmers. This is what business needs to drive it. And we need to make sure we're giving the skills to our people to do that. Manpower policy, infrastructure. If we want to build an integrated aluminium factory, you can't have the Ministry of Transport Industry disappearing off to go do something somewhere else. It's not going to work, because he or she must be focused to ensure that their activity meets that, because we're going to use that economic rent to lift it. If we can target, I told you, for instance, petroleum is about $4 billion. If we can target, okay, if we can target $5 to $6 billion that we know through a local content policy is going to go into the businesses that are majority owned and managed by Ghanaians, imagine what that would do for our economy. Now you do that over 20 years, over 10 years, then you start making impact. Because the person that has been trained for petrochemical industry can get up and say, you know something, I've learned this, now I'm going to go and do something else. And that is what, and this is a model that has worked.